He hasn't morphed them into warp gates yet. Oh, meanwhile, another attack going on. A lot of action on the battlefield, but it looks like Whiterah is going to push forward into this encampment here with the siege tanks overhead. He also broke the bunker there. And this is going to be a really close fight. Those two siege tanks need to unsiege and get into the battle, and this siege tank actually gets stuck among the Zealots. So I think right there, Whiterah, although he lost all of his units, he did get 4 Zealots into the natural expansion, and he's doing some good economic damage right now, as Jump is actually forced to engage with his SCVs to get rid of the Zealot threat. And the Zealots have just now acquired charge, so that makes them even more deadly, as they're able to hunt down units. That charge is on a 10-second cooldown. And finally, the Zealot threat is disposed of by Jump. So meanwhile, let's take a look back at the Protoss player's base. Looks like Whiterah, during that assault, was able to capture his 3rd Expo, and he's got another War Prism in. I'm not sure what happened to the other War Prism. Probably went down to a turret somewhere, but it's just a lot of action on the map, so it's hard to keep up. And he does have charge research, no blink yet. We'll see if that comes into play. He is going to move in with an Immortal and 2 Zealots inside this Warp Prism. Keep in mind the Warp Prism is the new shuttle. And he's definitely probably not going to drop into this area right here, because that would just be a waste of units. Although he might pick off a couple tanks with Friendly Splash. And he might actually be thinking about doing that here. And yeah, he's going to drop 1 Immortal, but not exactly... actually, that is very wise, because the Immortal can eat Siege Tank shots very easily. I mean, it's got 100 shields, and it only takes 10 damage per Siege Tank shot, so it can take 10 hits before it runs out of shields. And meanwhile, the Terran player is trying to keep his territory under his control, and the Warp Prism tries to come into the natural, but there is a missile turret there, and all of these Hellions try to burn down that Immortal as they pull back and try to lure the Zealots into the Siege Tank fire. And this Immortal just does so much damage. The SCV coming in to repair it, and all the Immortals, all the Zealots get burned down. The Immortal almost going down there, but it is going to get picked up and get out of there. Meanwhile, back at the Terran front, looks like Jump is constructing a wall of supply depots, so he is advancing forward, not only with sensor towers, not only with missile turrets, not only with siege tanks, but also his supply depots to help form a wall when the inevitable Protoss attack does come in. So this is very interesting play, very strategic from our Terran player Jump here, and I just love watching Mech versus Protoss for this very reason. So meanwhile, another Warp Prism coming in for Whiterah, so Whiterah really committing to this drop tactic here, just checking the middle expansion for a potential expand. And these Protoss units are inside this sensor tower's range, so the Terran player can see whenever the Protoss player moves its units. Remember, it only detects movement, but he can see whenever the Terran player moves. So this is an advantage for Jump here, but Jump really needs to think about grabbing another expansion soon, and he is going to, running out of breath, advance forward and try to grab his 3rd expansion to keep up with the Protoss player's 3rd as well. And he is just expanding his wall of missile turrets and siege tanks. I'm sure he'll probably even get supply depots out here. But what he really wants to get, after he's fortified this area here, is to grab this expansion. He needs more income, most definitely. And looking back at the Protoss player's place, you can see the Terran player not really too worried about mules, more worried about scanning, and that's really the name of the game in TVP. You actually will end up using scan more than you will mule, because you want to know when the Protoss player decides to go for carrier slash mothership, because that would put a very, very sad face on all of these units which are unable to hit air, save the missile turrets. So that's something that Jump definitely wants to keep his eye out for, and he is grabbing his 3rd Expo meanwhile. So it does look like Whiterah is going to try to move in with these 2 shuttles. He's got a lot of Zealots, a Stalker, and an Immortal loaded, so let's see what kind of damage he can do here. The Terran player, though, Jump has fortified. You guys can see missile turrets everywhere, really making it impossible for the Protoss player to drop on the natural or even on the main. And we haven't really seen Ghost use that EMP yet. Oh, big battle going on here, and there's the EMP. You guys just saw 2 EMPs from this Ghost in the front right here. And oh no, the Protoss player is screwed, because all these Hellions are basically forming a wall to for the siege tanks in the back earlier to get free shots off without being impeded by Immortals or Stalkers in their face, and oh my gosh, the entire Protoss force gets decimated there, engaging the Terran player when the Terran has strategic position. And that right there was a very, very poor move by the Protoss player, and actually I think he might have even given up just like walking his High Templar in there. But that is extremely important for the Terran player for Jump, getting that positioning with his Hellions and his siege tanks, making sure the Hellions were in the front, making sure his Ghost wouldn't die so that it could get those EMP shockwaves off. Very important for a Terran player to make sure his units are positioned well, otherwise that could have gone entirely the other way if the siege tanks were in the front and the Hellions were in the back. And another EMP shockwave. EMP doesn't take out all shields. It reduces, take a look, it actually does 100 damage to shields, and it drains all energy, so it's very, very strong, but it won't completely render an Archon useless as they used to. But anyways, it looks like Whiterun here, when he engaged that Terran force, it was just not a good idea, and he is now paying the price for it. Another EMP shockwave going down, and that is it actually for Whiterun. I don't see how you can come back from this, as the Hellions move in, and these Hellions are the bane of all workers. All those workers are not getting out of there. Have a nice, crispy day. And that is it for the Protoss player. There's really nothing he can do. Although he does have a Void Ray. And this is what I'm saying, that the mech build, due to the lack of Goliaths, really makes it hard to play mech. Because if an opponent gets air, then it's really hard to come back. But even in this stage, it's already over for the Protoss player. He's lost his third, he's lost his natural now. And all it's going to take to deal with this Void Ray is just maybe a handful of Marines. And there it goes, Whiterun calls GG. So that was a seriously action-packed game, and I hope you guys enjoyed that. I couldn't keep my breath up there, but as you guys can see, just going to show you guys the Terran player's base and how well he was macroing. Got 6 factories up. And actually the Protoss player here was able to grab the middle ground. But yeah, if you guys are familiar with the Brood War Pro scene, you guys all know about TVP and how mech works. You have vultures and siege tanks, and so this in StarCraft 2, very similar. Hellions and siege tanks, where the Hellions are in the front soaking up all the damage for the tanks in the back. So that was a very entertaining game, reminiscent of Brood War, and I hope you guys enjoyed that game. So stay tuned for more, and thanks a lot. HC StarCraft signing out.